another episode of Yarn to Table. Set him down now that he's said hello. So I've got a full show for you today. I have a half object to show, lots of works in progress. I've got a new project on the needles, some fun upcoming things on the horizon, and I've got a fun stash enhancement section for you. So I hope you'll stick around. I also have lots of fun things to talk about in our new chit chat segment. Hopefully you guys have been enjoying those as well. So, are you serious? Oh my god. He just swatted the camera with his tail. Okay, we're gonna be, we'll see how it goes today. There might be some cat craziness. I don't know. Let's see. Totally lost my train of thought. Thanks, Augie. If this is your first time watching my podcast, I want to thank you so much for coming and bearing with me and my cat craziness up front. I hope that you see something here that you enjoy, and if so, I hope that you will subscribe so that we can continue to chat together about all the nitty things. You can find details for all of my projects on Ravelry, where I am at Celeste Full. I'm also active on Instagram. And there's a Ravelry group which you can find by searching for Yarn to Table or clicking the link in the doobly-doo. Please do join the Ravelry group. That is where you can ask me questions, find the show notes with details about anything that I talk about on the podcast, and it's also where right now you can enter into our giveaway. So, had a nice big response to everyone entering my very first giveaway, and that's super exciting. I've decided that I'm going to run it for one more week. It'll be closing on Sunday, the 26th of March, probably sometime that morning. Honestly, I still have to figure out how you lock a thread on Ravelry, so if you know how to do that, go ahead and let me know, because I've been struggling. So that's when I'll close it, and if you don't know, the prize for the giveaway is a pair of 2.5 millimeter straight needles by Signature Needles. So really great, exciting prize there. I think they're perfect for a Cozy Memories quilt or a similar project like that. So go ahead and jump into that if you haven't yet. The way that you enter is you need to subscribe here on YouTube, as well as joining the Ravelry group for the Yarn to Table podcast, and then you need to leave a comment in that giveaway thread there in the Ravelry group that answers the question, what are your knitting goals or objectives for this year? And you guys have been sharing so many really cool knitting goals so far in the group, and so I would just recommend to anyone, if you're interested or you want to be inspired for the kinds of goals that you can set for yourself, definitely check out that thread, because there's some really cool ideas, everything from knitting more with stash to knitting a certain number of garments or socks this year, just all kinds of fun goals that people are setting for themselves. So that's very exciting. All right, so now that we've got that out of the way, we can jump into the finished objects, or in my case, half object this week. I have another fun mug for you today. This is my brand new narwhal mug. I actually bought this today. I had brunch with my friend Kelly, who I gave her Miette sweater, so stick around for chit chat if you want to hear more about that. But I had brunch with her and gave that to her today. And she gave me a nice little coupon thing that she got from Anthropologie for her birthday, where you could give it to a friend. So it had like two little things for 20% off, one for you and one for a friend. And I had gone to Anthro earlier this week to get a card for my husband for Valentine's Day, and I kind of had this narwhal mug just like in the back of my mind wanting me to come back for it. So that was just the excuse I needed. So I won't put you in suspense any longer. This is my half object. It is the Love Sock by Devin Clement. It's a free Ravelry download, and this is in Knit Picks Stroll in their white and their dove heather. And then the heel is, I'm actually going to take it off so that you can see the full heart as well. The heel is in Fiber Revolution on the Australis base, in the colorway Pink Punk, which you will recognize from my Wildflowers and Honeycomb socks. So here it is on the heel flap. Just incredibly cute. I mean, honestly, I kept stopping in the middle of my knitting just to stare at it. Like, it took me longer to knit this than it should have, just because I had to keep looking at it and just swooning. And like, when my husband was sitting next to me on the couch while I was knitting, I kept stopping and being like, hey, look at it. Isn't it so cute? Isn't it so cute? I kept forcing him to tell me again and again that it was cute. And it looks so perfect with this sock blocker too. It made like the very cutest project photo ever. So anyway, I talked about these a little bit. I basically have just followed the pattern to a T. I think they did a 1x1 twisted rib. If they didn't, I did alter that part, but I did 15 stripes, 4 rows each, which is what they recommended. I did the heel flap from the pattern, obviously the Intarsia heart, and then I did the toe that they recommended, which was a little different than the normal standard toe I do. Here, you just kept decreasing every other round instead of at some point speeding up to every round, which made for a bit of a longer toe. So it'll be fun to see if I like that fit. Obviously, I've been doing a lot of rounded toes lately, so coming back to this one, it's a little interesting. I do think I might like the rounded toe better. I guess I'm still kind of undecided, obviously, but here you can see this is where I was switching, because obviously I didn't use real self-striping, so this is where I switched the yarns. I did not, like, what am I trying to say, like catch them at all, because it was only 4 rows. Obviously they're not perfectly lined up. That doesn't really bother me at all. I think I might center it so that it's on the inside of both feet instead of being on the same side of both feet. I know there's some kind of trick you can do for this, but the thing is, if I were trying to do the trick, I think it's like you slip the first stitch or something, I feel like I would just forget to do it some of the time, and then it would be irregular, and I'd rather them just be slightly askew and regular, if that makes sense. Honestly, I don't love knitting stripes. This really reminded me how much I love self-striping, but it was still fun. I definitely left these tiny little, almost like eyelets along the way. Even though it was every 4 stripes, it still just left a little open spot. But the thing is, then I wove in the ends along there, and I think it made it helped close it up, and I think it looks fairly clean and nice. So I was good with how that turned out. I'm actually going to take this off again just to show you the inside of the heel flap, because I realized this is probably the most interesting part of the pattern. And because this is a free Ravelry download, I don't feel bad at all about kind of sharing the details with you. But here you can see the top of the heart is done stranded. And then after you get to, I think it's like the 10th row, you're coming from the top down, you do Intarsia. And you can see the way that it's been sort of tucked along the edges. So if you've never done Intarsia before, it involves having 3 different strands of yarn. You have the white on this side, the white on that side, and the pink in the middle. And there's a really, really good video for it that I watched that I thought helped me out a whole lot. So I'm going to try to remember to put that in the show notes for you. If I don't, just let me know, like respond to that thread on Ravelry or comment down below here or something, and I will, because it was very, very helpful. But it basically let you know everything you needed to know about the best way. It even shows you how to do like a little center pull, like little ball, just to have, so that you don't have your whole, like, everything getting all tangled up. So I ended up using the entire skein on one side, and then I did a small little bit on the other side and a small little bit for the pink, if that makes sense, like a small little center pull ball rather than the whole skein. And that really helped it to be manageable. I definitely wouldn't recommend it for like an on-the-go project doing Intarsia, but it wasn't as complicated as I thought it might be. And I think it turned out really well. I didn't really have a lot of issues with tension or anything like that. I mean, I am a fairly practiced stranded knitter. So I think that helps in terms of like working with several colors. There are some things that you sort of learn with stranded that are somewhat applicable to Intarsia. So yeah, so this is definitely a product knit for me, and as I've said before, I'm more of a process knitter, but I just love how it looks so much. Like, they're the cutest freaking socks I've ever seen in my life, so I just had to. Like, I just had to. So I finished these like yesterday morning, I want to say. And I've not cast on the second one yet, but I will soon. I would like to finish them before February's over, just because they're sort of my official like February socks, even though they obviously weren't ready in time for in time for Valentine's Day. But I mean, I knit my socks one at a time. I'm not really interested in trying two at a time anytime soon. And I'm not a person who struggles a ton with second sock syndrome. I usually cast on right away, and I'm usually so excited to wear the pair of socks that sort of helps me to stay motivated. So anyway, I should be casting that one on sometime this week. So now for my works in progress, of course I have my other pair of socks, my vanilla ones, going in my Society 6 Harry Potter bag. And these are my Pygmy Puff socks. So the yarn is Plump Merino from A Homespun House in her Pygmy Puff colorway. And I have my little Pygmy Puff Progress Keeper on there, still on a removable stitch marker because of my lobster clasp issues that I talked about, but here's this little face. So cute. Yeah, so I've worked a tiny bit on these. Oh, actually, I don't think I had the heel done when you saw them last. So I added the Fish Lips Kiss heel, and yeah, they've just sort of been my on-the-go project. I haven't devoted a ton of time to them because I have been trying to prioritize the love socks, and these are technically for March. So, but they're very good for on-the-go, because obviously the love socks are not the best for on-the-go because, for one thing, even when you're just doing the stripes, you have two different skeins, and then obviously in the Intarsia is just not the best. So those are more of a at-home in the evenings project. Let's see. My next whip is the Ashburn. I've made a little bit of progress on it. I'm actually pretty excited because I'm almost done with this middle section, and then I can move into the pink. So I think I was actually a little bit further down when you last saw it, but this is marking 10 repeats, and I'm now at 12.5 repeats, and I need to be at 15. So I'm almost there. I won't bore you with the details on this one this week, just because I've talked about it so much in the past, and there's not a lot more to say. I'm definitely closer to being like memorized in terms of what the repeat is. It's as I've mentioned in the past, it's an 8-row repeat, and some of the rows are really, really similar to each other. So I just would rather refer to the pattern than make a mistake and have to tear back. So I've been keeping the pattern fairly close to me while I do that, which makes it not as much fun to knit. But I'm really enjoying the yarn still, and I'm pretty excited to have it done and wear it. This is also more of a product type knit for me. So, and my Ghastly's bag, if you haven't seen it before, is from Good to Be Girl on Etsy, and I also have my little Wednesday on there. This is from another Etsy shop. Which brings me to what's in the field bag. And lots more little enamel pens. And this is my new whip for this week that you have not seen yet. It is the Hopsalot Felted Bunny Slippers by Tiny Owl Knits. And I have, I sat down with these, I started them yesterday and I did all of the knitting. So now they just need to be seamed and felted. So I'll show you. These are the main body of the slippers. So as you can see, flat, it's like this. And then it has this sort of little diamond. And they already just kind of want to fold in on themselves, so they're going to get seamed up like that. And the back will get seamed up like that. Make for a little slipper. Thicker on the bottom with this garter stitch for the sole. So I have 2 of those. And then I have 4 of these little ears. And these are done in stockinette, which I'm wondering if that's going to help them, if they'll sort of retain a bit of that curled look when they felt or not. I'm curious to see that. But so obviously this is done very bulky, which is nice because it knits up really fast, and obviously since it's felted, that's okay. Doesn't have to be super precise. So this is done using this Knit Picks Capra, which is a wool and cashmere blend. Nothing superwash, no nylon or anything, because it's going to felt, of course. And this color is, do I have it? Flamingo. And it's a DK weight, so I'm knitting with it doubled. And the pattern asks for a US 11 needle. I actually don't have that, but I have a 10.5, so I've been using my 10.5, and generally I tend to need to size down anyway, so I think that's going to work out great. So yeah, these are going to get seamed and then hand felted, and then you stitch on the ears, which you've also felted obviously, and then I'm going to stitch on the little nose and eyes, like embroider them on with some finer gauge yarn. Oh, and little pom-poms for the tails. So hopefully I'll have some time to do that this week. I do think the hand felting, especially the slippers themselves, is probably going to be pretty time intensive. So it might be something that I can't really work on until next weekend. I really don't know. So, and it kind of depends on my mood too, because I'm a little bit excited about some other projects. And I also want to get the Ashburn done. I want to get the Love Sock done. So, you know, we'll see how that goes. So, that's my whips. And now let's talk about what's on the horizon. So, I've been kind of like a broken record lately in terms of these projects that, as I said, have sort of been backing up in this traffic jam that I want to get done. And this week I kind of had to have a reckoning with myself and recognize that, for one thing, the hats, the Lolo and the sugarcane hat, which I want to do in 2 different colors for myself, my plans for those came about back when it was really cold, and they were sort of more product focused and focused on the fact that I didn't have like an everyday hat that I liked to wear that I had made for myself, and I wasn't enjoying wearing store-bought hats every day. And it has just been so warm here, you guys. I think it's been warm almost everywhere because I keep hearing people say that. But I mean, it's like 60 degrees today in the middle of February. It's totally crazy. You know, obviously it's like that bittersweet thing because sometimes you enjoy the weather, but you also know that it's a sign of how incredibly serious global warming is. Not to mention that I really love winter and snow, and I just didn't get any of it this year, so I feel kind of cheated out of that. But all of this is to say that I just have not needed to wear a hat in a very long time. And I don't think I'm going to need to wear one again this year. So I'm kind of just going to say, hey, I'm not super excited about knitting these for the process. They're more of a product thing, so let me just put them off until next year when I'm needing a hat again. So I'm pushing those off. I'll probably still make the Molly Beret by Alana Dakos with the Little Bean Loves sock yarn in Hermione. I might make that sometime soon, or it might get pushed off too. I guess it kind of depends on my mood. That one's definitely more something I'm excited about knitting rather than just excited about wearing. So we'll see. But yeah, so that's the situation there. I'm still excited about the idea of making the Floam cardigan. In fact, next weekend, I think I'm going to go to the yarn store that has Quince & Co. that's in town here, and maybe pick out some yarn for that. So that's going to be my next garment knit, and I'm pretty excited about that. And then I have some more warm weather garment knits lined up that I'm excited to tell you about soon. And then I have my March socks coming up. You know, I'm already working on the vanilla one. I told you about the Renesmee, so all of that's coming up. But yeah, I think I kind of just had to clear the docket a little bit and like admit to myself when certain things that made sense as the next project don't really make sense anymore. So the final thing for On the Horizon, this is something I'm really excited about. You may have seen, I think it was last week, this lovely skein from a homespun house. It's part of her local yarn club, and it is in the colorway Nesting, and it came with this progress keeper that I don't think I gave you a good shot of it all last time, so I'm going to try to show it to you again. Of course, there's terrible glare. There, that's kind of showing it to you. It's this tiny little bird on a twig. I had this sitting on my desk, and next to it I had this Capra sitting on my desk, which is from the slippers. And if you haven't noticed, I have a ton of it left over. I don't even know how that happened. Don't ask me. And they were sitting next to each other. And I thought, those kind of look like they want to play together. And then I started thinking, is there something fingering and decay? What would use fingering and decay? And I very, very quickly remembered the Meandering Shawl by Stephen West, which is a lovely all-over brioche shawl. It's very similar to the Marley Shawl by Andrea Mowry, but a little bit more complex because the brioche has some places where it kind of like weaves into itself. And it calls for a decay and a fingering, which creates a really interesting looking brioche because it's sort of got this like thinner yarn playing with this thicker yarn. So I looked it up to see if the amount that you needed would work with the amount that I have, and it will. So I think I figured out the very, very special thing that I'm going to use my new homespun house yarn with. And I'm actually so excited about it that I have been dying to cast it on since I thought of it a couple days ago. I've just been dying to. And I think that's going to happen like maybe later today. It was not in my plans, but it's just like when you're excited about something and you want to knit on it, it's like, why are you going to force yourself to knit on these hats or whatever that are in your queue because you thought you needed a winter hat like a month ago? I struggle with this kind of stuff because I am a super big planner, obviously, and I don't want to be overwhelmed by too many whips. So I have to walk that line very carefully of when I'm like, I need to be strict with myself because it makes me happier in the end, but I also need to like know when to indulge myself when it's actually going to make me happier. And I think this is one of those times where like, yes, I need to finish the Ashburn, but I have not knit on something that I was enjoying the process of in a little while. Like I said, I'm a process knitter, and the bunny slippers are a product knit, the love socks are a product knit, the Ashburn is a product knit. Somehow I slipped into like too many product knits at once, and I need something that I'm excited about the process. Not that I'm not also excited about the product, because I am, but to knit brioche with this lovely hand-dyed yarn, like that is what I want to do right now. And I'm just gonna let myself do it because I think I've got my whips fairly well in control right now. I'm powering through the socks. I'm on schedule with them pretty much, and you know, the only other thing that I have going on is that shawl. That's part of why I got the bunny slippers out of the way yesterday, is I wanted to cast this on, and I told myself, you have to do the bunny slippers first. So I sat down and I just like knocked them out because I really wanted to cast this on. So I think I would have cast it on last night actually, except I hadn't kicked it up yet and I didn't feel like going upstairs to kick it up. So yeah, very excited. Now I'm going to share with you my latest stash enhancement. So first, I don't have a huge stash and I don't normally buy a bunch of stuff that I don't have a project in mind for. I try to limit how much I'm buying things like this that are just something that makes me really happy. And then it's sort of like you figure out what it's going to be. But the problem with being that way is that when it comes to indie dyers, a lot of times you're going to miss out because you have to be like ready to buy when that shop update happens. And or like a lot of the really special colorways will come out in yarn clubs, so you kind of have to like sign up ahead and stuff like that. So I've kind of been allowing myself to do more of that lately. As long as I can keep up with the yarn and it doesn't start to get out of control, I think it should be fine. So all that is to say that I actually got really, really lucky this week, and I got online and I saw that Molly of a Homespun House was having pre-orders for her new Harry Potter club, which I've wanted to join her Harry Potter club for a really long time, and I've never been on top of it before, and I've just lusted after like the most recent one, which I can say what it is now because I think it came out a while ago, the Dumbledore's Favorite that had the super miniature Progress Keeper that looked like a little sherbet lemon, and then it was all like Dumbledore colors. I mean, I just love it. I want it. And like, I just think getting a surprise like that in the mail and not knowing what it's going to be, I trust Molly's vision. Like, I always love all of her colors, so I'm not going to run the risk of getting something that I don't love. And when I saw that, I just immediately signed up because I knew the next time she offered it, if I was able to catch it, I was going to do it. So I signed up for that this week. And then at the very same week, I think it was the same day, I saw that Nora George was updating her shop, and she was going to have a bunch of my favorite Harry Potter colorways and some of my other favorite little like sock duos, like her Toffee Apple. And so I ordered some of those. And tonight, Cat Sandwich Fibers, who is absolutely one of my very favorite dyers, she announced that she's going to have a shop update tonight. And she has not had a shop update in months and months because she's been moving. So I'm probably going to get some stuff. I'm going to look at it. We'll see if anything calls to me, but almost certainly I will be ordering some tonight. So there's going to be lots of fun stuff to show you soon, although I don't have any of it with me at the moment. But what I do have with me is some fabric. Now, I know this looks like a tiny little envelope, and that is because... Okay, so here's my concept. If you are familiar with Maker's Haven, and I never know what her name is on Etsy, I never remember it, but the Maker's Haven podcast, she does these lovely patchwork project bags. And one of them that she's done recently that's so cool is it's Harry Potter inspired, but the way that she did it is instead of having like a specific Harry Potter fabric, she did like an owl print and then like a mermaid print, right? So it's like things that make you think of Harry Potter. So I had this idea that I wanted to do something like that for myself, but I wanted to make it themed Gilmore Girls. And I found some really cool prints on this website, Spoonflower. Basically, they do like custom printed fabric. So they have all kinds of really neat prints, and they're kind of like a Society 6 situation if you're familiar with them. And the neat thing about it is if you order these 8-inch samples, they're really affordable, and you can put them together into some kind of cute little patchwork, because you only need a little bit for a patchwork. So I ordered 8 different 8-inch samples in prints that all together say Gilmore Girls to me, and I'm going to use them to make myself a project bag. So here they are. The first one is, and these are all like folded in half, but I'm just going to show you the one side. Donuts. This one looks like a jukebox, and it has David Bowie songs, which we all know. Music is everything on that show, plus Lorelai loves Bowie. Dragonflies for the Dragonfly Inn. Fall leaves, because fall in Stars Hollow is always like a big image there. And then also snowflakes, because of course snow in Stars Hollow, and especially Lorelai loves snow. Pizza, classic Gilmore Girls dinner. Coffee, 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 obviously. And finally, this lovely little bookshelf for Rory. So, if you hadn't noticed, they're all sort of colors that go together, which I chose very deliberately. These sort of pinks and peaches and grays. Very much my palette, obviously. And I'm really, really excited to get that going. So I have some star printed fabric, which I forgot to have to show you. That's going to be the lining and probably a little wristlet handle. And I have some black zippers, and I just think they're going to be really fun. So I've never made a project bag before. I've done a lot of sewing, but I haven't done it in a long time. And I'm really excited. So I can't wait to show you how that works out. I don't have much to talk about for In Stitches. Obviously, it's been so warm here that there just hasn't been an opportunity to wear a lot of hand knits. I've been wearing my hand knit socks as usual, but that's pretty much it. So now we're going to move on to Chit Chat. As I always say, if you're not interested in Chit Chat, that's totally fine. Thanks for tuning in. Make sure you subscribe if you want to hear more. Hit the thumbs up button. That helps me out a lot. Helps other people find me. And check out the Ravelry group and all of that. And thanks for watching. And if you are sticking around, let's kick back and grab your knitting and let's talk. So, this week, I feel like there's been so much going on. Let's start with the Miette. So I had brunch with Kelly today. Her birthday was on Friday. Today is Sunday. And I gave it to her, and it was really cute because my husband was working, and he really was excited about the sweater. He thought it was so cute, and he knew I was really excited and nervous to give it to her, and he really wanted to see her reaction, so he asked me to videotape it. So I told her, I was like, I got you this gift. Is it okay if I videotape you opening it? And I would love to share that with you guys, but I told her that I was just going to share it with him because, it's such a spontaneous moment, and I wanted her to feel comfortable. So, you know how that is. I mean, maybe she would have felt comfortable. I don't know, but I didn't ask. But she really loved it. First of all, it fit her perfectly, which, I really was not that I was super nervous about it, but I didn't feel certain about that at all because the measurements are really just to your bust size, and you have no way of knowing what assumptions they're going to make about the shape of your shoulders or the length of your arms or any of that, length of your torso. It definitely fits very cropped on her, which is how it's meant to. I thought it looked super cute. The darts lined up perfectly. It fit her shoulders and her arms perfectly. I mean, it was a perfect fit. She loved the color. That's her signature color, so I knew that she would. And she really loved the heart-shaped buttons. That was her big thing. And she kept talking about all the different things she could see herself wearing with it, doing it more casual with jeans and a t-shirt, or doing it over a dress. She was like, I'm going to wear this so much. And she just really, really appreciated it. She asked me how long it took to knit, and I told her, it took about 3 big days where that was my focus. And a lot less time than the oversized sweater that I had made for myself. I told her about the knit along as best you can explain a knit along to someone who doesn't knit, doesn't really understand the online knitting community. So, you know, I wanted to make sure that she knew that a big part of it was the joy that I took in making it and not just some kind of sacrifice that I was making for her. And I felt like she really got that, but she also got that it was an expression of love. And that was exactly how I wanted her to take it. So I felt like that was her reaction. So I felt really good about it. Yeah, so that happened early today, and it was good. And then when I left brunch, I checked my phone because, so here's the thing. I needed to check on Fiona, the hippo. I don't know if you've heard about this. So here in Cincinnati, we have a zoo. And a few weeks ago, actually, on my anniversary with my husband, on our anniversary exactly, which was January 24th, a hippopotamus gave birth 6 weeks early, which is very early. And in fact, the baby, Fiona, her recorded birth weight was 25 pounds, which is only half the lowest recorded birth weight in the history of the species. So she was very small. And it was a total miracle that she even survived at all, because most of the laboring took place in the water, and typically hippos give birth in the water. And just for some reason, the mom came up on land and gave birth to the hippo on land. And the mom didn't show any interest in the baby. They kept trying several times to see if the mom showed interest in the baby. But, you know, it's pretty common in the natural world for mothers to just sort of abandon a preemie because they, you know, without the help of like a round-the-clock NICU, basically, which is what Fiona's been living in, they just wouldn't survive. So the mother pretty much just abandoned her. And if she had been born in the water, she would have drowned, because you can't just immediately go into an enclosure and save a baby hippo, because the adult is in there. And like, I don't know if you know, but hippos are actually the most deadly species on the planet. More people die from encounters with hippos in the wild than any other animal. So you can't just like jump in there. So if she hadn't been born on land, she would have died. So already absolute miracle that she was alive. Very tiny. And they've been taking care of her, and she is just such a little fighter. She's so beautiful. I will insert, actually, if I can, I'll insert some photos, but you really should look up some videos of her, like her first steps and her in the water and stuff, because it's so cute. But I'll insert a photo for sure. Just Google Fiona the hippo or Fiona baby hippo. And like, here's the thing. So I'm like very into baby hippos. And I actually have a Google alert for baby hippo, because I knew that if a baby hippo was born at a zoo anywhere within driving distance of me, that I was going to need to go and see it. And like, we have the screensaver on our Apple TV that has like photos of animals and wildlife, and one of them is of a mother and baby hippo. And like every time it comes on, I'm like, ooh, ooh, there's the baby hippo, like, I love them. So when she was born, and she was like the most beautiful thing, like, I don't even know how to describe it to you guys, but I am so in love with her. And this week she's been having a really hard time. So she was putting on weight really fast, and she took her first steps, and she was learning, you know, because she like couldn't even support herself in the water when she was born, with like the extra buoyancy of the water, because she was just so little. And she's been on little oxygen machines to because her lungs are underdeveloped. And oh my god, it's so cute. Her little hippo nose with like the oxygen mask. Oh my god, you guys, it's so cute. So she's been on this oxygen machines, and she's had to have fluids intravenously, basically so like no one has ever taken care of a hippo like this before. So they had to milk her mother, which I'm pretty sure is like the first time anyone's ever milked a hippo. And the only reason they were able to get close enough and like do something like that was because they had trained her to get an ultrasound, which was like the first time they'd gotten an ultrasound from any member of this species before. So they were able to get close enough to milk her, and they were able to start Fiona off on some mother's milk and also to analyze the milk so that they could create the best possible formula. So just, I mean, every single moment of this baby's life has been like record breaking. Like the people that are working at the Cincinnati Zoo are just, they are absolute lifesavers and just heroes. And they're just on the cutting edge of veterinary science, doing this crazy stuff that no one's ever done before, all to save this tiny little precious life that is bringing so much joy to everyone. Like none of us have even seen her outside of these photos and videos yet, of course, but she has this huge following online. I mean, everybody's just completely in love with her. And I mean, when you see her picture, I'm sure you'll know why. She's so precious. So she's been having a really hard time this week, and that has been really, really stressful for me, which I know, again, it probably sounds really crazy to some of you, but I've had to check her updates every day, and like I've been like thinking about her and hoping that she gets better, and I keep bothering my husband like every few hours. I'll be like, do you think Fiona's gonna be okay? And he has to tell me like, yeah, she's a strong hippo, she'll be okay. But so I went to brunch today, and I gave Kelly the Miette cardigan, and you know, it was really nice. And then I left and I checked to see if there was an update about Fiona yet, because they do an update every single day. And the update was that she is making tiny little baby steps in the right direction. She was able to feed more on her bottle. She's feeding better than she was yesterday, and that was just really good news. So apparently it's probably just because she's teething, her little tusks are coming in, and that's really painful for her. So it makes it difficult for her to eat properly. So they've had to do some tube feeding, which I'm sure is like so uncomfortable. Poor little baby. So she was eating a little bit better today, and that's really good. So I don't want to get like too hopeful, because I mean, already like if she doesn't make it, I'm going to be completely crushed. I know that. But I'm feeling more confident that she is going to make it, and that feels really good. So yeah, so that was really good news. And I just love that little hippo. So let's see, there's a few other things to talk about this week. You may have noticed that I dyed my hair. So basically the situation with my hair is that naturally it's a little bit lighter than this, but fairly similar to this. And I wanted to go silver earlier this year, and my hairstylist tried to help me get there, but my hair is just like, it's got a real red undertone to it, like very, very red. Sometimes it looks red in the sunlight, and when you bleach it, you just can't get the brass out. Like, it is the brassiest hair you've ever seen. It just wants to be orange. Underneath, it's just orange. Like, I'm convinced that my hair isn't even brown. It's just like very dark red. So we couldn't get it anywhere near a blonde or a silver or anything that was even acceptable to go out in public with. So like, obviously to get it to a silver, it was going to take several treatments, but we were hopeful that we could get me to like a reasonable icy blonde that I could go home with and then come back and get it closer to the silver. But it was just like orange clown hair. So we tried, and eventually we just decided that it wasn't going to be in the cards for me to be able to have silver hair. So she dyed it back my natural color, and when she dyed it that day, it looked like my natural color. Like, it was pretty similar. Now granted, it's really impossible to get my exact natural color with dye. Like, hair dye is just never going to look like your natural color, but it was pretty close. But then over the course of the last few months, it really had faded, and I think it makes sense that it had faded because it was on top of like bleached out hair. So what are you gonna do? So if you had noticed before, I kind of almost looked like I had some highlights or like a weird ombre thing going on where my roots were darker and then I just had some sort of like lighter brown, and that was from where it had faded. And I thought it looked okay, but it was starting to make me a little bit crazy because several people were commenting that it was blonde, and I don't know, like, I felt okay with the way that it looked, but like, I do not identify as a blonde. I think blonde hair is beautiful. I just am not a blonde. Like, it's just not, like, I've thought about going blonde many times, but if I were to go blonde, like, the color of blonde that I like is a very light, very cool toned blonde. And this sort of like brownish sandy thing that was going on, like, I just felt like if it was reading as blonde, that was the last thing in the world that I wanted my hair to look like. So I grabbed some hair dye and I just did it at home, because on the cheap, what are you going to do? And that's all right. I think it's a little dark, but it'll probably fade. And yeah, right now I'm pretty excited about it because what I really, really want is just to be able to grow it out and have my natural hair back. I feel like I made a pretty big mistake and I wish I hadn't. But anyway, that's the situation there. Probably not the most interesting thing to hear, but in case you were wondering what was going on. So the last thing I'm going to talk about is Valentine's Day. So this week was Valentine's Day I think it was on Tuesday. And my husband was working at the hospital, so he was off the next day, so we decided to celebrate then. We had a nice Valentine's dinner in. We get plated delivery meals pretty regularly, which I really, really love. And they had some really good meals this week. They usually have something kind of Valentine's themed. So, and they're pretty good about having things, whether it's like Super Bowl Sunday or New Year's or Valentine's Day. Like, if there's something special going on, they're pretty good about having the meal be somewhat themed, which I really appreciate because I'm like a holiday junkie. So what we had on Wednesday was salmon with a beet risotto. And like, so beets are my favorite food. I think I've said that before because I have an enamel beet pin on my project bag. I also love risotto and I also love salmon. So this was just like thebomb.com. We had it with some Prosecco, and then I made a plated cherry and apple cobbler for dessert. And we just had a lot of nice quality time together. I made a Valentine's Day playlist that we listened to, and we had like a really lovely night in. And then we watched a movie. And then he was also off on Friday night, and so we had our nice little plated pizza night. So sometimes the plated meal will be pizza, which is like my favorite thing because I love making pizza at home. It's super fun. And they do it really well. Like, the dough that they send you is really good and stuff. So the plated pizza was also like all my favorite ingredients this week. It had Brussels sprouts and red onions and a balsamic glaze. Oh, and goat cheese. And I love all of those things. So we had that. When they do pizzas, if he's off, I really like to do pizza on Friday because there's just something about staying home and having pizza and a movie on a Friday that just feels like my favorite thing. So we had the Valentine's Day, the sort of like official Valentine's Day, and then we had our little plated pizza night, and they were both great, and they both involved movies. So on Valentine's Day, we watched Arthur, the 1981 version. So if you're familiar with the Russell Brand one from like, I think 2011, that's a remake of this, and this is starring Dudley Moore and Liza Minnelli. I think it's on HBO right now, and you have to check it out because it was so good. So we just sort of started it on a whim. I think he knew a little bit about Dudley Moore. I didn't really know about him, but we're both really big Liza Minnelli fans. Primarily from not Chicago. I always want to say Chicago. From Cabaret. I'm trying to think if I've seen her in much else, but I've seen Cabaret a million times, and like, that's all you really need to know that you love Liza Minnelli. Of course, she was on Arrested Development as well, which is great. So it's basically this comedy about this like wealthy guy who's always drunk and he's always making jokes, and his family wants him to marry this certain girl, but then he meets this sort of like quirky girl who's Liza Minnelli, and he falls in love with her. And Dudley Moore just like improvises so much of it. He had so many jokes that made us just, you know, when you have to pause the TV because you're laughing so long and hard that you're going to miss everything. Like that happened a couple times. And even just like in the first scene, like a couple minutes into the movie, we both looked at each other and we were just like, oh my God, I'm so glad we're watching this movie because it's so funny. And it came out in 81. It very much has that 70s feel to it. Everything looks like the 70s. And we thought it was made in the 70s for a while until I looked it up. And I find that the 70s is almost just like the best era for movies. Like I very rarely see a movie from the 70s that I don't love. There was just something about it. And I'm not a big 70s culture person in terms of music or fashion necessarily, but something about movies in the 70s. Like I said, Cabaret, Harold and Maude. I mean, all of the musicals that were coming out then were the big ones that I grew up with, like Oliver and The Sound of Music. Well, Sound of Music I think was the late 60s, but my mom always had all of those when I was growing up, and just like, anyway, it was just, it's one of those things where when you watch a comedy from that long ago, you kind of think that the tone or the pacing or whatever is going to be off, and it's just not going to hold up because comedy is a lot more sophisticated than it used to be. And so a lot of times when you watch old-fashioned comedies, they're just not that funny, especially for people like me and my husband who are kind of like, we both did stand-up comedy, so we, I think, are kind of on the cutting edge of like our taste. But man, this movie was great. So we saw that, and then on Friday we saw Gladiator, which I think, yeah, we rented that one from iTunes because it wasn't available. So I think I mentioned before, I'm big on the Oscars. I like to see all of the movies that are nominated for Best Picture, and recently I realized that there are only a few movies that have won Best Picture since I was born that I haven't seen. So I decided I should make an effort to see all of them. That way I will have seen all of the Best Picture winners in my lifetime. And Gladiator was one of them, and it's something that Ryan had seen, I think, in theaters, certainly back around the time when it came out, which was like 17 years ago. And he's a huge fan of Roman history, and he had really liked it. So I sort of had put it off forever and didn't think I wanted to see it just because I don't like Russell Crowe. But I saw it and, like, I really enjoyed it. I thought the story was really, really smart. I thought Joaquin Phoenix's performance just made the movie. He plays the sort of villain character, the Emperor Commodus. And I really liked the way that they took sort of the real story and real characters with Marcus Aurelius and Commodus and certain things that we do know about them, like that Commodus fought in the pits. And then they added in this other character who is not based on anyone real, which is the Russell Crowe character. And they created this storyline that sort of fit with the real timeline of the history, but it was also sort of its own kind of alternate history because, like, the way that things end up is not exactly the way that certain characters who are real died. I can say that without spoiling it too much. Yeah, so I was actually really impressed with it. The effects are certainly not, they're not the effects that we have today, but they still look pretty good. And I'm not the kind of person who that stuff really bothers. I can kind of just look at it from the perspective of like, hey, this was really good quality in 2000, so like, good on them. It's certainly shot very beautifully. The cinematography is lovely. Like I said, the story's really smart. Russell Crowe's fine, and Joaquin Phoenix is great. So yeah, that was a fun time. And now I just have like a couple more to see. I need to see Unforgiven. I have seen Dances with Wolves and at least half of The English Patient, but I don't really remember them because I was a kid, so I feel like I should watch those again. And maybe there were one or two more. Oh, Rocky, I think Rocky won. Yeah, there's like one or two more. So those will be on the horizon, and that'll be fun. So I guess now I have blathered enough. It worked out nice because I had a lot to talk about in chit chat this week, and I didn't have a ton to show you in the knitting, so I like to keep these at around an hour. So I think that worked out pretty well. Yeah, so thank you for watching. Make sure you tune back in next week. You can see my felted bunny slippers, hopefully. Maybe some more progress in the love socks. Certainly, I will have started the Seep and West meandering shawl by then, so that'll be fun. And in the near future, I hope to show you the Gilmore Girls project bag as well. So lots of fun stuff coming up. I hope that you will stick around and make sure that you subscribe if you're interested in that and you haven't yet. And just thank you so much for watching. I really, really appreciate y'all coming week after week and just, you know, being an audience for me to talk about this fun stuff that I love with. So yeah, thank you, and I will see you next week. I hope that you have a wonderful week until then, and make sure that you Google baby hippo Fiona because you will not be sorry. So yeah, see you next week. Bye.